The Honourable Nikki Wagner.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. New Zealand is a stable, well-functioning, democratic country with one of the longest continuing parliamentary processes in the world. We are consistently ranked at one of the most peaceful and one of the least corrupt countries in the world. And I think we should be very proud of that. It means that we're not quick to anger, we're reasonable and rational in our thinking most of the time. We respect the opinions of others, we respect the rule of law, and we respect our democratic history. We are an exception in this modern world. So let us just reflect on the past decade. Internationally, there's been a series of traumatic events, wars, uprisings, terror attacks, and of course the global financial crisis. All of these things have created huge disruption, huge uncertainty, and misery for many, many people around the world. And New Zealand has had its fair share of challenges during that time. We've had the Canterbury earthquakes, we've had the Pike River disaster, we've had the Rena wreck, and of course we too suffered from the global financial crisis. But I think we've managed to come together, we've managed to work hard together, and we've managed to get over those difficult events as well as possible. New Zealand economy was in recession in 2008, and it was later hit by the global financial crisis. Large spending increased by the Labour government in the 2000s proved to be unaffordable when our revenues fell. And if we look at the predictions for the budget of 2009, it showed that if the national government had continued and maintained that lavish spending, we would have faced never-ending deficits, and net debt would have exceeded 60% of GDP in the early 2020s. We would have had no buffer to manage international uncertainty. The government's plan throughout the global financial crisis was to invest to support the economy. It was an approach that cushioned New Zealanders and their families from the worst effect of that recession, and we worked hard to get on top of spending and to deliver better public services within a tight financial constraints. We focused on getting better value for taxpayers' money and particularly supporting our vulnerable people. And we even managed to increase benefits for the first time in 43 years. Now, National remains focused on managing the government's finances responsibly and sensibly. We're continuing to pay down debt. We're building a more productive, more competitive and more resilient economy. But the rest of the world is not as prudent nor as stable. The world is full of political unrest. During the time that John Key has been our Prime Minister, Australia has gone through 4 Prime Ministers. One of them was a retread. Canada has moved from a Conservative government to a high-spending Liberal government. The US has moved from Republican to Democrat, and we now have the Hillary and Donald show. Some people are calling that Trumpset, because it could be equally as disruptive as Brexit and equally as dangerous to us and the rest of the world. But New Zealand maintains a stable, strong, consistent, fiscally responsible national-led government, and we are being rewarded by solid economic growth. The latest GDP data shows New Zealand's annual growth rate is 2.8%, which is the top 10 of the OECD. I think it's important that we understand that being a stable, predictable democracy with a resilient and an inclusive population gives us a huge advantage on the global stage. We've done well under the leadership of John Key and Bill English. We're in good shape to face an increasingly uncertain world, and I'm proud to be a New Zealander and of our track record. Thank you, Mr Speaker.
What a great speech. Williams, CO.